Welcome to the Blissful Biz podcast. I'm so excited to be here with Dagmar Spremberg, a dear friend of mine. Welcome to the show, Dagmar.
Thank you for having me. Happy to be here.
Yes, you've been on the podcast before. I think you've been like my very first guest or second guest. Yes, back in 2020, which feels like a different world.
Absolutely.
In a way, right? Oh my God, yes.
A lot has happened.
I think that's been before the pandemic. I started it in January. I'm not sure. I don't remember actually. But yes, so welcome back. And I'm really excited to talk with you today about something a little bit different because, as you know, I pivoted my niche a little bit, so which mostly influences the content I put out to work with women in their 40s or 50s or beyond who want to build an online business. Because I feel there's so much power that we have as women, it's like, I don't know, like a little bit like perimenopause or menopause is like a new beginning. And for many women, the children are out of the house and suddenly there's this urge to create something with more meaning. And I feel there are not enough role models out there. And you are definitely one of my role models for healthy, inspiring aging, or also like how you run your life, your business. So yes, I'm sure our listeners are going to love your story. And so that was my introduction basically. And now let's start with you. Like, tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do.
Okay, well, thank you first for this wonderful introduction. And I'm really, really also happy to see somehow lately more and more really good content facing the aging and to age different and menopause and all the changes in a woman's life in not so much of a traditional way, but really of like in a beautiful way of like, let's embrace it and let's not be bothered by the changes or by age, but rather really age gracefully. So I'm super excited to be here. And I can also right away share my age. I'm 57 years old or young. And I live in Costa Rica for 22 years and have been teaching yoga for about 23 years. And yeah, it's been an amazing journey. And definitely a lot has also shifted for me those last years. I'm in menopause since 7 years. So yeah, everything changes. And yeah, I'm happy to talk about it and share what I can share and give some good tips for maybe.
I love it. Yes. I remember like when I don't know, like I'm like I feel in perimenopause. It's so funny. Right the week after I announced my new niche, suddenly I started getting like hot flashes. And my period is like, it's like the universe is just like testing me. Let's see, let's really go for it now. Like now it got a little bit better already, but it was really like extreme, just so suddenly, like, wow, okay. I have to say, like when I started learning more about menopause and other symptoms, and you know what it's like with the internet, that when you start Googling, it's like the worst symptoms show up, right? I was like, oh my God, can I still run my business? Am I going to be like completely brain fogged and incapable? Is it too late for me now? What's going to happen? Did you ever have those fears or?
Well, when I first got into menopause, I mean, also being based in Costa Rica, you can imagine having hot flashes in Costa Rica is really not fun. I remember going to teach my yoga class, and before I even started the class, I was dripping. And so I would put everybody in like, prayer hands and be like, okay, close your eyes. And then I'd be like, patting myself. And it was like, wow, is this like the climate or am I going into menopause? So, I feel a lot shifts in our energy, but a lot of really beautiful changes are happening too. The way you show up is definitely different, I feel, like when you're in your 30s, 40s, you're so ambitious and you want to get things done and you have all the energy, and it's good that you have all the energy. And then once you're over 50, menopause or not, you're like, okay, well, how am I working my energy? Because you just become more exhausted and more tired, and your body needs different things than when you are 30 or 40. And, and I feel we need to embrace that instead of being challenged by it, which for sure also happens, because first you're like, no, my body is changing. You're in the mood, you're moody. You don't have the energy so much for the things. And you feel like, you're gaining weight. So it's definitely a journey, but then again, it's also like there's less bullshit. You're more confident to really be who you are, and you just show up differently. And for me, I feel it's really been a journey of like learning what I need. It's also because I'm not using any hormone replacement therapy, so I've really been going through it the most natural way. And and it's a rite of passage, I would say, and I feel also like at this point, I know what I need and what I need to do in order to work my energy most efficiently. And so in a way that I lost my yoga studio was also a blessing, because now I have more freedom and I can create more things online and I can travel more. And and just when I feel it's becoming too much, I can allow myself to just take a break.
Yes, I love that. I definitely see that in how I run my business and my life. I'm more mindful of my energy level. It's not the same as like women when you have like young kids or babies, and then suddenly you really only have like 1 or 2 hours a day. I definitely have more time for my business, but I don't want to spend all my time on it. So I'm more mindful of that it's not healthy, that I'm not feeling good, that it's not going to work in the long term when I spend like 8 or 10 hours or 12 hours a day on my computer. So it's more like a conscious decision. I feel like, to be more mindful where you put your energy, how much time you spend on a task, not like when you have like young kids and there's no other option, right? You just don't have the time. So I feel like more empowered in a
Definitely.
way. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I find for myself also, I was never somebody who really liked structure a lot. And I always struggled a little bit with boundaries. But at this point, it's like even for myself, I need to have a clear structure for myself. I need to even set boundaries for myself. When it's too much, it's too much. And that's really a new learning, because now I can feel like, oh, actually boundaries and structure give me a little bit more freedom. I can't do it without, because then I just, exhaust myself. And, we don't want that.
Yes, and that's especially like when you're starting a business, when you're an entrepreneur and everything is so excited and there are a million things to learn and to do. The last years, for me, it was so much about simplifying. Like the last years, I basically just sold one offer. Oh, you're like getting hotter. But that's now Costa Rica heat, right?
This is the jungle now. I'm like sweating. Like, my goodness.
Yeah, but I had it in the last masterclass that I hosted live, and suddenly I was like, but it's fine. I just didn't think about it. I think I was more scared of what would happen before I actually had hot flashes. Like, I remember the stories from my mother. It seemed like menopause was only about that. There were no other symptoms that anybody talked about. It was weird. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's also the lack of sleep. I was lucky, at least my sleep now, it's kind of okay. But I know a lot of women who really have a lot of problems to fall asleep or wake up a couple of times in the middle of the night because of hot flashes, or even just, because everything changes so much in the body. And I feel like, and the same for business owners, I feel it's really the time of coming together. And I feel that has really helped me, because maybe, back in the days, women weren't talking so much about it. I don't remember my mom talking to anybody about her struggles with menopause. And that's what I mean. And now it's like, oh, all of a sudden everybody talks about it. And how great is that? And we can have a conversation like we have, and we can come together with other women and realize, oh, I'm actually not the only one. And, we can give each other tips and alternative tips, so that we don't just need to go the classic route. And yeah, and it's the same in business. It's like, wow, so we just need to find our tribe and the like-minded people. And then we can really help each other to make this the most, beautiful time, because we can't fight it. We're going through it anyway, right?
That's so true. Right? And the alternative, like dying young, is not really better. Right. But before we, I want to hear more about your tips, definitely. But can you share a little bit more about your business, what you do, how it is structured, how it evolved, like maybe especially like in the last years?
Sure. So my main business for the last 20 years was my yoga studio here in Costa Rica. And that was also like 70-80% of my income. So I was based here, and it was great because I created a community. It was a sanctuary, and, and online yoga wasn't really such a big thing.
What didn't exist
most of the time.
then.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's where we met, right? I was one in your yoga classes in Costa Rica. Yes.
Yeah, and then you came on a retreat too. And so because I'm European and I would travel every year to Europe, I already started to host classes and retreats in Europe. And that was always like my second source of income, and for fun also, to travel to beautiful places and to continue this in-person experience, which is really my favorite thing to do.
I have to interrupt you. What I love, what you already did back then, I was in Costa Rica 2011, and you had just a little notebook, leave your email address here so I can get in touch and send you my offers or when I'm doing retreats. Even back then, you've already been building your email list so advanced.
Thank you. I think it's because first of all, my background is promotion marketing a little bit. And I had always people who taught me these things. I think I was also always one of the people in your courses learning all the tech stuff, which is really my least favorite part of the business. I struggle so much with that still, but I'm also I guess I have some kind of ambition to learn it and figure it out. And so, luckily I did that, because I realized pretty soon that my community was a very international one because of the studio in Costa Rica. People were passing through from all over the world. And it was really great because they wanted to stay connected. And that's very different to having a studio in Hamburg or New York or wherever, where you have always the same kind of local people. And that really helped me also with my retreats, because even my retreats up to today, they're very international and people come from all over the world, which is really wonderful. But then when the pandemic hit and I was starting to teach on Zoom, it was also really great, because all of a sudden I had this international community and they were super happy. And they were like, wow, finally we can take your classes online. How great is that? And so community building has always been probably one of my really biggest strengths, because I love it and I'm really good at connecting with people. And so luckily I built a good email list pretty soon, although I still feel I have so many people on my list, but you don't feel it.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
you always talk to the same people reply to you. So that's something that, I don't know, that probably a lot of people feel the same way. And so, that was really great. I then started teaching on Zoom during the pandemic, and then started to also create my first online course with you, actually, with your help. I remember the Spark Your Life, which I ran for 4 or 5 years. The last time, I think, in 2022. And so since then, since I lost my studio because the hotel closed, I've shifted my focus a little bit more on teaching in Europe, because I'm also considering to spend more time in Europe, because I am European. I love Europe. I love Mallorca. And so I'm hosting now 4 retreats there, and I'm doing 3 retreats in Costa Rica. So a bunch of retreats coming up. And I also created an online membership, because it was with the Zoom classes, and I think a lot of people can relate. It's especially when you have an international community, not everybody can join the times. In Europe, it's in the evening, in America, it's in the morning. So, and so, basically all the things that I created came out of the need of okay, how am I going to make this work for my community, and checking in with them. And realizing, well, if I'm actually creating a membership with my content being available in an on-demand library all the time, then people can really enjoy it whenever they need to, so always growing, always learning.
Well, that's great. I love it. What are your plans for the future? Do you think you're going to keep going like that? Do you see yourself pivoting, like, I don't know, like in 10 years, 5 years? Let's not look so far ahead.
Well, the idea is work smarter, not harder.
Ooh,
Get
yeah.
more support. I found a really wonderful virtual assistant who's based in Berlin. And I'm so happy because my problem was always that, again, structure. When I tried to have virtual assistants, they were always like, okay, Monday at 12, you need to tell me what exactly the tasks are for this week. And I'd be like, oh my gosh, I would add more stress to my plate because I'm the kind of person, I just flow through my week. I don't necessarily know by Monday what I'm going to do all week. And so now I found this person is so great. And he was like, okay, yeah, you just let me know when you need me. So I'm like, I'm like multitasking. And then I start to write emails. And then I wonder like, how could I write that better? So I send him a message. Can you take a look and stuff? And he's like, okay, 2 hours later, he's like, okay, I took a look and here's some suggestions. And it's just wonderful. And I realized, like I love being interviewed on podcasts. I'm just so much better in this like one-on-one communication where people, ask me something and I can reply to that, or I have this exchange. So for me, it's very difficult to dive in. I'm not really like a self-paced learner. I get lost, I get overwhelmed. It's like too much. I don't know how to implement it. So for me also, I think it's important to find support. For me, it's really like, I'm very grateful for like the teachers in my life who inspired my practice, the people who inspired my business. Elena Brauer for me is a big inspiration. She was one of my teachers. It's just amazing how she creates all this beautiful, really great content that is so much more than yoga also, because it's like, another thing for me, teaching 23 years is like, I don't want to just teach a yoga class. For me, yoga is so much more than foot behind the head and all these things, right? And so it's like, I want to bring in other things. It's more about lifestyle. It's like, exactly, how are we aging gracefully? How, what are the tools? How can we create community to support each other, especially when the world feels so heavy, right? It's like, how can we keep up our own spirit? Let's put it that way.
Yes, definitely. Thanks for sharing that. I think that's really inspiring for a lot of our listeners. And I love that you're really just like really going with what your audience needs. So making it about them, basically, right? So when it comes to, just like, like getting overwhelmed, perimenopause, all that, what helps you? What do you do?
Well, rest, and really resting a lot. So I'm lucky that I'm not living in the city, that I'm living so far still in Costa Rica, or even now that I was 6 months in Europe, I spent most of the time out in nature or in like a place like Mallorca. Because to me, I can tell now like the best recipe against overwhelm, and the best recipe also with the news and this constant noise, is really to just be in nature and be still and quiet. And I need it more than ever. And, and that's one thing. I feel even now when I come to Hamburg, it's like, I don't really use the city as much. I don't go to concerts. I don't even see a movie. I go twice maybe for dinner. And I go all the time into the park. Yeah. And then I go like, oh, I want to go again to the park and to the forest. And that's when I'm like, it feels so good. And I really honor that. I honor that I need more space, more quiet, that I need more sleep. So, I live together with my boyfriend, but we actually created our house from the beginning with 2 bedrooms. So I have my own bedroom. I'm a big fan of that because it's also like, it is a luxury. It really is. And it's really just because we have different rituals. And for me, it's like, I like to go to bed early. I really like to go to bed early. And I like to be quiet before I go to bed and have put on a candle and just like wind down. And I'm not so big on watching movies, because then I really can tell the difference how I sleep. So I think, maybe put it that way. It's like learning which environment you can create best to thrive, and I feel that has really shifted, and that's really the practice. It's like creating a nourishing environment. What do I eat? I'm taking supplements. Like what I find really important is magnesium. I have a great magnesium supplement. I'm taking medicinal mushrooms. There's like reishi mushrooms and lion's mane, which is great for the brain, and reishi is great for the nervous system. So working also with things like that. And I feel, the brain fog has really, it has really helped a lot with that. So that would be a tip from me if you're looking for something like that. And definitely women's circles, collaborations. Like, it was very sweet last year in Costa Rica. We had like once a week, we would meet with like 5, 6, 7 women, always the same group. And we would have a share. So like really a women's circle where everybody had 10 minutes to share whatever they needed to share. And everybody was listening. And it was not about giving advice. It was really just about holding a space for each other, seeing each other, feeling each other. And that was so healing, because men are really confused, like how to handle you when you're going through these changes, and they have their own changes. And as women, I think we are so supportive, I mean, I feel like maybe in our 30s, we feel more competitive, and I feel like not competitive at all anymore. There's so many beautiful women out there who inspire me. I'm reaching out for collaborations. And I think for me, that's the way to go. Inspire each other, help each other, lift each other up. And yeah, I think those are like the main tips. More rest, more collaborations.
Love the focus. Yeah, I love the focus on community and collaborating as well. I mean, I see a big difference with like when I have a good diet compared to when I have a, like not so good diet, how I feel. But I've also like always had a lot of like allergies. So I'm definitely like sensitive to things like gluten and allergic to eggs. And yeah, so that affects me mostly. But otherwise, I don't do anything yet either. So I'm getting more interested in HRT, like hormone therapy, but I don't think that my symptoms right now are really bad or bad enough that I really need to do something. We'll see. Yeah, but community, I think that's also where, especially as a woman, we really thrive. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's our nature to share, I mean, that's why I love so much to host retreats, because it's such a beautiful place of sharing, and I bring in more communication and, these shared diet exercises into my retreats as well, because again, like, as we get older, our yoga practice changes, the focus changes, and it's really so much more about acceptance and softening and like letting go of this ambition and like, what is it that we still need to prove ourselves, or like it's really much more about accepting the changes of the body and riding the waves and learning what I need each day, how to create these perfect conditions. And and that is really very much also about the people. And some people drain your energy, some people lift up your energy. Alcohol, I think also, it's like, I mean, I love a good glass of
sugar.
wine.
Yeah, alcohol and sugar. I'm thinking about really just like being super strict and saying, okay, I'm not going to have you anymore. But I'm not there yet. But it's like,
I think with everything, excuse me, it's moderation. So like, it's like, it's like if you are trying to, not have sugar, not have coffee, not have alcohol, you're really being hard on yourself. And I think also as we get older, that's the main thing also maybe, is to not be too hard on yourself and to just, be like, you don't have to prove anything. You've done it. I mean, you've built an amazing business. And yeah, of course, there's always more. We can always make more money and have more success. But what does it really matter? Like, I mean, I think the biggest success in life is if you are just content and happy and feeling healthy. And, that beauty comes from the inside and not so much on like all the figures. It's so funny, all these business 6 figures, 7 figures. No. As if that's really all that matters in life. And it's like, no, it matters. How do we feel? How do we get old?
Yes, definitely. Though I have to admit, I really still have a lot of ambition for my business. And I'm just curious if I can like get to 7 figures, and I just like, I really want to give it a go. I have this wild dream of making $1 million in my 50s.
For sure.
But at the same time, yeah, that's probably also the advantage of being in my 50s. I'm not going to kill myself over it. Not on the expense of my health, of my relationships, of my lifestyle, right? So more like, I see it really more like I'm not obsessed by it. As like a healthy ambition. Yeah, I think that's also like when we get older, we just like, there's more calmness in how we approach things. Right.
Definitely.
So it's not so much that, here, so far I have to do this, I have to do that, and then working the night through with something, or that's not going to happen anymore.
Definitely. And, it's good that you still have the ambition, because you have a beautiful business and you just shifted it so much too. And then when you turn 57, we'll talk again, because I'm a little bit ahead of you. I still had my yoga studio when I was, 7 years ago when I was turned 50. So I was still like ambitious too, It's
turning
like, now I'm
53 on Sunday, like in a few days.
Good.
Big Happy party birthday. Here. Big party. I'm invited like pretty much everybody I know here in Poyensa.
Fantastic.
So no, that's going to be great. I couldn't celebrate my 50th because of the pandemic. It was like in the middle of lockdown. So I feel like I have to do a big party for my 60th birthday. But by then.
Then we'll talk again. Exactly. I might be by then. I might be in Mallorca too. So I'll come.
That would be so much fun. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like with alcohol and sugar. Yeah. Sometimes for me, it's difficult to balance sometimes, I have to admit. But at the same time, yeah, it's just like, it's part of our society. It's part of social life. I don't always want to be like, no, I don't eat this. I don't eat that. I don't drink this. I drink that. That's not really joy for me.
Exactly. Absolutely. And I think that's important too. So it's like, so, okay, I have I gained weight, and it's like, okay, I feel it and it's not so great, but it's also like, I'm enjoying life, and definitely lifestyle in Europe is different. But, it's like not being so hard on myself. That's probably also really a big change. Yes. And like, and again, moderation is like, I know how it affects me if I go out late and party or drink lots of wine or something. And I know, and I'll deal with it, So, but it's like definitely something I wouldn't do every day, because I just know it's like gonna drain my energy.
So what about your fitness? Exercise. Did you change something there as you got older? How did your yoga practice change? What are you doing?
So my yoga practice has changed for sure. I don't do any handstands, and all these things that I was eager to learn 20 years ago. So my yoga practice is definitely slower, more gentle, more yin yoga, shorter also. I really hardly, if I do my own practice, honestly, I don't really do 90 minutes, because I also feel like it's shifting so much away from like this physical focus. And I do 30 minutes, 40 minutes maybe of my own practice. I meditate more. And like I said, I really feel like the yoga is more incorporated in like, the way I show up. I show up differently, the way I'm present, the offerings I create, and all that to me is also the yoga. Fitness, that's a tricky question. I know I should be doing more, and I'm not doing it. And that's definitely like, here in Costa Rica, it's tricky, because there's like, I don't really like to go to a gym. I would love to have a personal trainer. But to be really funny about it, like I started working with a personal trainer, and this is like young guy here, everybody trains with. I couldn't do it. I felt like this older housewife who's having this like young Tiku guy come over to train her. I just really couldn't get over it. So I'm still looking for somebody, because that made me really feel old. I really was like, okay, no, I cannot do this. Yeah. It's a funny story. So I think personal training would be great. I know it's really important. I try to do cardio. I try to do like twice a week, to like go up a hill or something like that. And and have to still find my way there. So honestly, that's a challenge right now for me.
Oh, thanks for sharing that, and thanks for being so honest, right? It's so often that when you listen to people, everybody has it perfectly figured out. And the reality is we are all just trying to figure things out. And same here. So I'm so lucky that I found a Pilates studio here in Inca, in the next town with the reformers, which I love because it's just entertaining in a way, and yeah. So, and then of course I walk and walk and walk because I have a dog. I think that getting the dog has been the best thing for my health ever. I don't have any, before that, even with yoga, I had shoulder issues, then hamstrings, then hips, because even when you do yoga 6, 20, 30, 40, or even 1 hour a day, that doesn't really balance sitting for 12 hours a day. Right?
Sure.
First on the computer or working, and then in front of the TV. I'm a big sofa fan. So that's really, really made the biggest difference. Something that I can recommend to everybody: get a dog and walk it. Don't just put it in the garden. Walk it.
That's true. Absolutely. I don't have a dog. I have a cat, which cats are more on the other side. They're very inviting to snuggle up on the couch. But yeah, I know that when I'm in Germany and staying with my friends, they live by the forest. And it's I just love it to get up in the morning, take the dog and take the dog for a walk. And they're always happy when I'm coming because okay, Dagmar's going to walk the dog every morning. And it's just the most beautiful thing. And they say the same. They say wow, even also during the pandemic, without the dog and the daily walks, they would have gone nuts. So it's definitely a good, if you can get a dog, get a dog.
Yes.
It forces you to walk. Yeah, I totally see that.
Yes. So let's talk a little bit more about your business, because it's the Blissful Biz podcast, right? Mm-hmm. For your retreats or the people that you work with, I think we talked about that before, that there's a shift as well. A little bit, you already said that you shifted, you offer in a way in your retreats that it's also community and sharing. Is this something that you communicate or promote consciously, that it is for women midlife or older, or is this just happening organically? How do you approach that?
Interestingly, I think it's happening organically. And, for example, I had a retreat in Sardinia in May, and there was 20 people, and they were really from the youngest one was 24 and the oldest one was 68. And because it was also mother and daughter and, and it's really beautiful because I also that, I bring these people together because it's also so nice to share intergenerational, and because I always had open classes in Costa Rica, I think my strength also is to cater to people with different needs and to give modifications. And so I feel people feel that from me. I don't even need to really share that so much. And it's also something they love, because one of the things people give me feedback about is well, your classes are gentle. We feel comfortable with you. But there's still always a little bit of a challenge too, but I'm not pushy, but I'm also not super slow and boring. So I don't know, somehow there's this mix. And I think it is because I'm not just teaching retreats to people over 60 or just power yoga to the 30-year-olds, and it's I can make it work pretty much for everyone to get something out of it. And even interestingly, sometimes the people that are in their 30s and come, they're oh, this was actually so nice because it was so different from the usual power yoga classes that they maybe go to. And they felt, inspired. And the older ones say, oh, it's so nice to also have younger people here. And there's really this beautiful mix. And and they get also maybe a little motivated or inspired to practice a little bit more dynamic, maybe. So
I love that.
So
you don't have to really word it out, I think, because if people get to know you, or they find you or on social media, on your website, they see that you're not in your 20s. It's obvious, right? And then they try some practices, and that speaks for itself, I feel.
Yeah. And, I look at old YouTube videos from me because I have a lot of people actually that know me through my YouTube videos, the older ones from 2005, 2006. And I'm skinny and I'm all flowing. And I'm wow, it's interesting to watch me. And it's also nice, you can really feel the progression. Like when I look at the video back then and the video now, it's like, it's obvious, you know. And I think that's maybe a good tip for everybody too. It's like when you put yourself out there, it's good to create content that really represents you and that is easy accessible. So like a YouTube channel is a great thing because people can really tap into your energy. I have always people who come to my offerings and I don't even know them. And they're like, oh, I've been practicing your YouTube videos for like 10 years, you know, and it's like, wow, you know, we put these things out there and we're like, oh, who cares? There's so many YouTube videos. Like, why would I, you know? And then people come and you're like, wow, you really don't know who you reach with your offering. And so, you know, just put it out there in different ways. You know, some people, you know, like YouTube. I was never personally somebody who would do yoga on YouTube, but like, you know, but I know obviously a lot of people love it and it's easy to access. And so why not, you know? So, and that's how you, maybe find all the different niches or people for your other offerings.
It's amazing that you started that journey so early. I think can be really proud of yourself. What are you doing these days to market yourself? Or do you like simplify structure? You talked about that in the beginning.
Well, I changed to a new platform with my offerings. I'm now on Marvelous, which is a new platform where I'm trying to have everything in one. So I'm like, I teach my live stream yoga classes through the platform. And then the replays go into the on-demand library for the membership. There's a community feature. So I want to, you know, also bring more community offerings in there, like maybe a monthly group call. I'm now bringing in guest experts because there's things that I don't feel, you know, it's not my strength, for example, to teach teacher trainings or to share so much about yoga philosophy, but there's beautiful teachers in my community who I want to bring in to share about things that I don't share about, which is, for example, now, about tantric philosophy, or then also I want to bring in women to talk about menopause or to talk about aging or to talk about conscious communication. So all these things. So my vision, and that's what I'm creating right now, is to really create a platform that is more than just a yoga class every day and really focuses more on living a yogic lifestyle. And I do different things like that. Then my focus is mainly still on the retreats also. I teach also at this beautiful place in Italy, Mandali. So I have a mix of my own retreats where I'm renting a location and I bring my own group and I market it as my own retreat. And I'm also teaching for other places like Mandali or Anamaya here in Costa Rica, which is nice because then I don't have to bring all the guests myself. So there's less financial risk. And you always get to grow your community because you meet people who maybe didn't necessarily come for you, but maybe they like you and then they follow you. So it's like community building. So I would recommend that to everybody who is a yoga teacher, to also, you know, again, collaborations. And those are my main offerings. And I'm in a mastermind right now as well, not with you because it was earlier than yours. That I'm trying to also, you know, build a high ticket offer and and then I have an idea, but it's not really clear yet. So, but it's good to have the support, you know, and it's really good to, to be pushed gently to, you know, not just do what you already always did. And that is sometimes easy and sometimes overwhelming. The implementation is like in all the tech stuff, but you're really good in. So I know I can always reach out to you when you
that's easy for me. But that's also my background, right? I mean, not really. I mean, I don't really enjoy like having to figure out a new tool too, right? So when there's something, I remember when the first time I looked at Airtable, which I'm using to manage my mentorship program, like the applications, the whole like lead process, and then also like my clients and all the data is in there. I was like, do I have to learn this? Everybody thinks it's not like, you know, like I still also have to spend time when it's something new to figure that out. I'm not scared of it. I might get annoyed by it and then I just like do something else and get back to it. Yeah.
Yeah, but I also learned ask for help, you know. We don't have to do it all alone. If I spend like hours and I get annoyed and frustrated figuring this stuff out, it's like, okay, who can I ask, you know? And that's beautiful. There's also so much more support out there for, you know, running your business, and it's definitely something I highly value, because, you know, that's also something, as you get older, it's like you want to save your energy. So what can you give away? And I feel also if you invest in that, then it's also like coming back to you always. And, you know, for me, for example, because I know you're also offering a mastermind. So for me, that was probably the biggest investment I've ever made into learning something new. And it's scary, and definitely pushing my limits and boundaries. But I'm also thinking, if I want to create a high ticket offer, then I need to know how it feels to be part of one, because how am I going to talk about it? How am I going to create it if I don't know what is good, what is not good, what would I do different, etc. So whenever I get to this point of like, ooh, it's scary, I remind myself that, you know, it will come back, and it's learning and growing in different ways. And, you know, and sometimes I really just have to close the computer and go out in nature and go for a walk. And like you said, and leave it all and come back to it the next day.
We got this. I'm excited about seeing what you're going to create. It gets out there. Can't wait. Yeah. I know you got this.
Thank you. I'll reach out to you if I don't.
And I really hope that, we can talk about it like soon, next year here in Mallorca.
Good.
So thanks so much for sharing your story, what you do, what works for you. It's been really inspiring, as always. Where can people go to learn more about you?
So I'm mostly active on Instagram when it comes to social media, and you can find me under Montezuma Yoga, which is still the name of my yoga studio, but that's how people know me. So Instagram at Montezuma Yoga, and my personal website is my name, dagmarspremberg.com, and there are links to all the different offerings. I would like to offer your community also my freebie, which is a beautiful video series. I call it the Jungle Video Series. It's a Vinyasa yoga video filmed here in Costa Rica. It's a yin yoga video and a meditation, a jungle meditation. And it's just beautiful, especially now when it's winter, to have this, to transport yourself for a moment to Costa Rica and the jungle sounds. And it's free. So I'm happy if anybody wants to enjoy that. And and then there's also the link to my membership, and, you know, which I also, which I already talked about, and which I'm growing. And so I'm excited about that, and my retreats. So everything is on my website.
Retreats are highly recommended. If you ever want to do a retreat in Europe, like in Mallorca, where else are they happening? Mallorca, Ibiza still?
No, Ibiza is really tricky to find good locations. So I do 3 in Costa Rica, 2 in January, 1 in February, 2 in Montezuma in January, and 1 in the Peninsula de Osa. Highly recommended, because that's still one of the paradises with like incredible wildlife. And then I do 4 in Mallorca, and 2 of them are also in collaboration. 1 is in collaboration with a naturopath. Highly recommended. We did it this September, and it was amazing because people got one-on-one health consultations, and it was really, really great. And we had a special diet. It was not like a juice fast or anything, but it was really like gluten-free and grain-free and dairy-free. And we ate so good. And, you know, we did a little emotional detox, and it was really, and we had also some older women in there, and it was just really, really great to share that experience.
So love it. I'm going to add the links to the show notes, obviously. So check it out, everybody. And so thank you so much for showing up, spending the time with me. I really appreciate it, Dagmar. And talk to you soon.
Thank you so much. Always love chatting with you. Thank you for having me.